Alright, so we're going to take what we learned last week about the fractions, decimals, and percents, and we're going to use them to solve today. So when you're finding the fraction or decimal of something, then you need to multiply. So there are some keywords. Whenever you see of, okay, so whenever you see the word of, that means you have to multiply. Okay, so this one says find 1/8 of 1/10. Okay, so that means we're going to multiply 1/8 by 1/10. And remember, when you multiply fractions, you go straight across. Okay, so when you multiply fractions, you multiply the top by the top. So 1 times 1 is 1. What's 8 times 10? What's 8 times 10? 80, yep. Good. Okay, so you're going to multiply those together. You guys can also use the multiplication feature on your calculator if you would like. So you have 1/8. You can use that ABC button that I showed you, times 1/10. Okay, and that will give you 1/80 as well. Okay? All right, now the next one says find 3/5 of 80. So anytime it says of, you're going to multiply. So if you do 3/5 times 80, a whole number, okay, if you're doing this without a calculator, you want to put it over 1, and then you'll multiply the top, 3 times 80, which is 240, 5 times 1, which is 5, and then you would just divide. So 240 divided by 5, okay, and then your final answer would be 48. Okay, and again, you could use the fraction button to do 3/5 times 80, and that will also give you 48. Okay? All right, so I'm going to have you try the next few, okay? And again, remember, whenever it says of, that means you're going to multiply. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to do that, and then we'll check in, okay? Okay, so Julie, will you tell me what you got for this one, the 0.4 times 100? Great. 40, and then Avery, will you tell me what you got when you did 0.2 times 0.5? Good. And you guys can write this as 0.1, or you can write it as 0.1. Either one of those are fine. Okay, those mean the same thing. Anytime you have zeros in front of the decimal, okay, those are optional. Okay, and then Stacy, will you tell me what you got for 0.25 times 80? Nice. Okay, and then Bree, will you tell me what you got for this one? Did you say no? Oh, will you tell me what you got for this one? Did you do the 0.6 times the 1.8? That? Well, why don't you just do it on your calculator there for me? It is 1.08. Okay, good. Okay, and this 0 is not optional. Okay, that's between the decimal and another number, so you have to put it. Okay, good work. Okay, so now we're going to find the percent of a number. So if you're finding the percent of a number or a price, what we're going to do is convert the percent to a decimal. Okay, convert the percent to a decimal. So that's something that we already did before. When you're converting a percent to a decimal, you can move the decimal 2 places. Do you guys remember if it's left or right? If you're converting from a percent to a decimal, you go 2 places to the left. Okay? Or you can divide by 100. Some people like that better because it gives them the actual decimal. Okay, so that's what you're going to do first. Then we're going to add in what we learned today, which is that you multiply. When you see that of, you multiply. Okay, the number or price by that decimal that you found. So we'll do that together. Okay, and then this is going to tell you how much that number or price that it makes up. Okay, so this says what is 20% of 150? So we just learned today, if it says of, what does that mean we have to do? Yep, we're going to times, we're going to multiply. Okay, last week we talked about how to convert the percent to a decimal. So if it's 20%, the decimal is behind it. So if I move that 2 places to the left, 1, 2, it just becomes 0.20. So we're going to do 0.20 times 150. Okay, so 0.20 times 150. Okay, and we got 30. Okay, and you can also, if you take that number and divide it by 150, that should give you 20% as a decimal. That's 0.2, which is the same thing as 0.20, just if you wanted to check it. Okay, so I want you to try this next one. What is 40% of 80? So using this as your example, okay, I want you to try this one. So first step is to write 40% as a decimal. All right, let's check in. So 40%, Reagan, can you tell me how to write 40% as a decimal? This one, I'm just curious on how you wrote 40% as a decimal. Good. Yeah. And then you just multiply by 80. You want to tell me what you got for your final answer? Great. Yes. Good work. Okay, now we're going to try this one. So will you guys write this down with me? What is 32.5% of 1,000? So notice that whenever you have a 2-digit number, do you see how this ends up in the decimal just goes in front of the 2-digit number here? Okay, so it's the same thing for 32.5. When you move that decimal 2 places, okay, it becomes 0.325. So if you move it 2 to the left, and again, we're just going to multiply by 1,000. And another way you could write this instead of like the times in between is you could use parentheses. So you can do 0.325 times 1,000. So 325, that is your final answer. All right, now for this one, the 5%, I want you to write 5% as a decimal. Does anybody want to tell me what it is? 5% is a decimal? Yes, 0.05. If it's a single digit, right, and you're moving the decimal 1, 2, you have to put the 0 in between. Anytime it's just one digit, like 5, 2, 3, 9, okay, you're going to have a 0 in between there. And then it's times $4, so you could just put 4.00, or you can even just do 4. Okay, and you get 0.2. Do you guys know what that is in terms of money? Because that was $4. Yeah, yeah. So in terms of money, this would be 20 cents, which you can write it with the dollar sign in front, or you can write it with the cent sign. Okay? Either one of those would be be great.